Ladies and gentlemen, those who grew up in the 1970s were not shaped by ease. They were shaped by necessity. They learned early that life does not negotiate with excuses. If something was needed, it had to be earned. If something was lost, it had to be rebuilt. This environment forged a psychology rooted in self-command. These individuals were trained without being told that discipline precedes reward. They understood that strength is not announced, it is demonstrated. They did not wait for motivation. They acted first, and motivation followed. Scarcity taught them clarity. When resources are limited, the mind becomes sharp. They learn to value effort, respect time, and waste nothing, especially energy. They developed patience because life demanded it, results took time, progress took repetition, and character took endurance. Failure did not break them. Failure instructed them. Every setback carried a lesson, and every lesson strengthened resolve. They did not ask, "Why me?" They asked, "What now?" Their confidence was not loud. It was quiet certainty, built from overcoming difficulty when no one was watching, built from responsibility accepted early and carried daily. They learned that commitment is power to a skill, to a goal, to a word given. They were not distracted by constant validation. They relied on inner approval. They trusted their ability to persist longer than obstacles could stand. This psychology produced builders, people who understand that success is not an event. It is a habit, not a gift, but a process. And the greatest lesson they carry is this: control your thoughts, discipline your actions, and persist with purpose, because life rewards those who decide firmly and act consistently. That is the psychology of those shaped by the 1970s. Not soft, not loud, but unbreakable, thank you. Scarcity built self-reliance. Nothing was handed, everything was earned. Strong starts line expended, and don't heading in 800 words. Scarcity built self-reliance. Nothing was handed, everything was earned. That single truth shaped an entire generation at the level of thought, behavior, and character. When resources are few, excuses have no value. When comfort is limited, capability expands. People who grew up in the 1970s were not conditioned to wait. They were conditioned to act. They learned early that survival, progress, and dignity depended on personal effort. This was not taught in classrooms or seminars. It was absorbed through daily living. Scarcity became the instructor, and self-reliance became the response. In an environment where options were limited, the mind learned to focus. When there are no shortcuts, discipline becomes natural. These individuals did not expect systems to rescue them or circumstances to change in their favor. They understood that if life was going to improve, it would improve through their hands, their decisions, and their persistence. This created an internal locus of control, a belief that outcomes are shaped by action, not entitlement. That belief became a permanent advantage. Earning replaced asking. Effort replaced complaint. Responsibility replaced blame. When something broke, it was fixed. When something was missing, it was worked for. This repetition built competence, and competence built confidence. Not confidence that depends on praise, but confidence rooted in proof. They knew what they could do because they had already done difficult things with limited tools. Scarcity also refined values. Waste was unacceptable. Time was respected. Promises mattered because resources, material and human, were not easily replaced. This cultivated loyalty, commitment, and follow-through. When you grow up knowing that not everything can be replaced, you learn to take care of what you have, including your word, your reputation, and your relationships. Character was not a slogan. It was a survival strategy. Delayed gratification became normal. Wanting something did not mean getting it. Waiting was not frustration, it was preparation. This trained the mind to think long-term. People from this era learned to endure discomfort today to secure stability tomorrow. They became planners, builders, and finishers. Impulse had little power over them because impulse had no reward. Only consistency did. Failure, in this environment, was not dramatized. It was expected. When effort is required, mistakes are inevitable. Instead of being protected from failure, they were exposed to it, and that exposure built resilience. Failure did not attack identity, it informed strategy. You failed, you adjusted, and you tried again. Emotional toughness was not discussed, it was developed through repetition. Authority existed, but dependence did not. Respect was given, yet independence was trained. Children learned boundaries and consequences early, which taught them self-regulation. This balance produced individuals who could follow structure without losing initiative. They could operate within systems while still thinking for themselves. That ability later translated into leadership, entrepreneurship, and reliability under pressure. Because nothing was guaranteed, gratitude emerged naturally. Progress felt earned. Achievement felt deserved. Even small wins carried meaning because effort preceded them. This reinforced a positive feedback loop. Effort led to results, results reinforced belief, and belief fueled further effort. Motivation was not external, it was generated internally by experience. Perhaps most importantly, scarcity eliminated illusion. There was no fantasy that life owed anyone comfort or recognition. Expectations were realistic, standards were high. When life was hard, they adapted instead of protesting. This grounded realism made them steady in chaos and calm under pressure. They were not shocked by difficulty, they were prepared for it. In today's world of abundance, this psychology stands out. It produces individuals who mow, be while others wait, who build while others complain, who persist while others retreat. Their strength is quiet but relentless. They do not announce resilience, they demonstrate it. They understand that the mind must be trained before circumstances can be mastered. Scarcity did not weaken them, it sharpened them. It removed dependency and replaced it with capability. It stripped away entitlement and replaced it with ownership. And once a person learns to rely on themselves, they become difficult to stop. Because systems can fail, markets can change, and circumstances can collapse, but a disciplined, self-reliant mind continues forward. That is the enduring psychological advantage forged by scarcity. The certainty that no matter the conditions, progress is possible through deliberate thought, disciplined action, and sustained effort. Patience was trained by life itself. Results came through effort, not shortcuts. This was not a philosophy people read about or repeated to sound wise. It was a reality enforced by circumstance. When systems moved slowly and rewards were delayed, the mind learned to endure. People growing up in this environment did not expect immediate outcomes. They understood, often without conscious thought, that progress required time, repetition, and restraint. Life conditioned them to stay the course long after enthusiasm faded. In a world without instant access, patience became a practical skill. If something was worth having, it required preparation. If something was worth building, it demanded consistency. This shaped a mindset that valued process over excitement. Effort was respected more than speed, and mastery was prized over appearance. The absence of shortcuts forced individuals to develop depth, not just motion. This environment trained emotional control. When outcomes are delayed, frustration is inevitable. But instead of reacting impulsively, people learned to regulate themselves. They waited, they observed, they adjusted. Emotional discipline became part of daily survival. This internal regulation later translated into better decision-making under pressure because patience had already been practiced in ordinary life. Effort was the currency of advancement. No one expected reward without contribution. This created a powerful internal equation: work precedes outcome. That equation eliminated entitlement and replaced it with accountability. People learned to measure themselves not by what they wanted, but by what they were willing to do repeatedly. This built stamina, mental, emotional, and physical. Time itself became a teacher. Watching progress unfold slowly taught respect for natural rhythms. Growth was not rushed. Skills developed through repetition, not hacks. People learned that cutting corners weakened results, while persistence strengthened them. This understanding produced craftsmanship in work and discipline in thought. Excellence was not accidental, it was accumulated. Patience also shaped ambition. Go. ALS were not abandoned because they took too long, they were pursued because they were meaningful. When effort is the only path forward, desire must be deep enough to sustain it. Shallow goals died quickly. Strong goals survived. This refined focus and eliminated distraction long before the word became popular. Waiting did not mean passivity, it meant preparation. While results were delayed, effort continued. While outcomes were uncertain, discipline remained. This created a powerful distinction. Patience was active, not idle. People kept moving even when recognition was absent. They learned to trust the process because experience had proven its reliability. Failure in this environment was slow and instructive. When progress takes time, mistakes reveal themselves gradually. This allowed reflection instead of panic. People corrected course rather than quitting. They learned that one misstep did not erase months of effort. This produced resilience grounded in perspective, not emotion. Delayed results also built humility. Success was not assumed. It was earned over time, which prevented arrogance. When achievement finally arrived, it was met with quiet confidence rather than entitlement. People knew how much effort was required because they remembered the waiting. This humility made them steady in success and composed in difficulty. Patience sharpened judgment. When outcomes are not immediate, impulsive decisions lose appeal. People learn to think before acting, to weigh consequences, and to choose long-term benefit over short-term relief. This discipline of thought became a competitive advantage later in life, especially in environments where others chased speed without substance. The most important result of this conditioning was trust in effort. People believed deeply and personally that consistent action produces results, not because someone told them, but because life demonstrated it repeatedly. This belief created persistence even when progress was invisible. They kept going because experience had taught them that effort compounds. Even when evidence is delayed, in an era obsessed with immediacy, this psychology remains rare and powerful. It produces individuals who do not panic when results take time, who do not abandon discipline for convenience, and who do not confuse motion with progress. Their patience is not weakness, it is strength under control. Life trained them well. By denying shortcuts, it gave them endurance. By delaying rewards, it taught them faith in process. And once a person learns to persist without immediate return, they gain a form of power that circumstances cannot easily take away. Discipline was non-negotiable. Responsibility came before comfort. This principle was not debated, explained, or softened. It was enforced by daily reality. Life did not revolve around personal moods or temporary feelings. What needed to be done was done first, and how one felt about it was irrelevant. This environment trained the men to obey intention rather than impulse, and that obedience became the foundation of strength. People raised under this code learned early that comfort is a reward, not a right. Work came before rest. Obligation came before preference. This ordering of priorities shaped character at a deep level. When discipline governs action, chaos loses its influence. The individual becomes predictable in effort and reliable in execution. This reliability, repeated over time, becomes personal power. Responsibility was introduced early and without ceremony. Tasks were not symbolic, they mattered. When responsibility carries real consequences, attention sharpens. People learned to finish what they started because unfinished work created real problems. This trained follow-through, one of the rarest traits in any generation. Starting became easy because finishing was expected. Discipline also created internal structure. When external enforcement was present early, self-enforcement developed later. Over time, rules moved inward. People did not need supervision to act correctly. They supervised themselves. This internal governance produced independence, because freedom without discipline is chaos, but freedom with discipline is control. Comfort was treated with suspicion. Too much ease was understood to weaken capability. Discomfort, on the other hand, was accepted as a necessary condition for growth. This mindset prevented avoidance. Difficult tasks were approached directly, not delayed. People learned that resistance loses power when confronted consistently. This environment reduced emotional volatility. When action is dictated by responsibility, emotions do not dictate behavior. Feelings were acknowledged but not obeyed. This emotional discipline made individuals stable under stress. They did not collapse under pressure because pressure was familiar. They had practiced functioning despite discomfort long before it became fashionable to talk about resilience, discipline, also refined standards. When expectations are clear and enforced, mediocrity has little room to survive. People held themselves to measurable outcomes. Effort was visible, results mattered. This cultivated pride in workmanship and respect for excellence. Doing something well enough was not sufficient when responsibility was real. Because responsibility came first, trust followed naturally. Others learned they could rely on these individuals. Trust, once established, created opportunity. Responsibility became a currency. Those who demonstrated it were given more to handle, more to lead, and more to build. Discipline quietly opened doors that talent alone could not. This conditioning also built long-term stamina. When discipline is habitual, motivation becomes unnecessary. Action continues regardless of mood. This allowed people to outlast obstacles and outperform others who depended on inspiration. Consistency beat intensity. Day after day, disciplined action accumulated into mastery. Mistakes were addressed, not excused. Responsibility meant ownership. When something went wrong, the focus was on correction, not defense. This eliminated